The Touhou print work started out nearly 2 decades ago as of making this video. That's quite a while, and it's still going with plenty of serializations and releases under its belt. But the first Touhou printed work ran from March 2005 to March 2006, and was Eastern and Little Nature Deity. This manga, written by Zune and illustrated by Nemu Matsukuta, not only began Touhou in its printed form, but was also the beginning of the Sangetsusei sub-series focusing on the 3 fairies of light. Thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you would like to support me and the channel, you can do so on Patreon, link on screen and in the description. Not only will you be thanked in the videos, but will also receive exclusive content, including a look at the tankobon of Eastern and Little Nature Deity. Little Nature Deity doesn't begin with Chapter 1, instead of opting to go with a prologue chapter, or a Chapter 0, or however you would prefer to call it. When it comes to first impressions, Little Nature Deity is coming out spilling its spaghetti. Visually, some of the pages straight up look unfinished with a lot of shading and tone just outright missing. A lot of the pages are white, and parts that you would expect to be filled in lack that, and the pages come off feeling empty. It feels like this chapter is at the stage right before the final line work is put into place. There are panels where it looks like the characters are done, and others where it looks like they could use another pass as well, as the backgrounds being wholesale unfinished. Marisa decides to show up at the Hakurai Shrine and tells Reimu, "Hey man, shit's kinda weird, your shrine feels further away for some reason." Reimu, being Reimu, shrugs it off because why should she give a shit? It's not really affecting her, and more importantly, it's flower viewing day. And this is where the camera shifts towards the actual main characters of Eastern and Little Nature Deity, the 3 fairies of light. This group of 3 fairies is composed of Sunny Milk, Star Sapphire, and Luna Child. And for some reason, the translator decided to use Lunar Child instead. Couldn't tell you why. Fairies are a bunch of fucking gremlins in Touhou. They're often very childish and love to fuck with others. Case in point, these 3 fairies are currently in the middle of pranking Reimu by making it harder to get to the shrine. Then Remilia and Sakuya are spotted on the way to the shrine and the chapter just fucking ends? So what, no Remilia? What a cock tease! Now, it's not just the visuals, but also this chapter as a whole feels unfinished as hell. We're just left in what feels like the middle of the chapter and promised a Remilia which we don't even fucking get. So here's some shit. That's not the end of that chapter. For some fucking reason, the translator decided to not translate the remaining 6 pages of this chapter. These 6 pages feel a lot more finished, with panels actually including not sketched out backgrounds, and Reimu and Marisa occasionally looking well done rather than medium rare. Though some panels still remain undercooked, Star Sapphire notably lacking in her filled in black hair. I think it's known that I don't know Japanese, but using online translators, I was able to get a gist of this remaining chapter. Remilia wants to join in on the flower viewing affair, and when Reimu notices the 3 fairies, they fuck right off. Reimu can be a scary bitch sometimes, so they're right to do so. But man, what an underwhelming chapter. I hope the rest of Little Nature Deity isn't like this. Oh, thank fuck it isn't. This is already a lot better visually, and I'm glad to say that this is also the standard of art for the remaining of the work. The prologue is ass in comparison, and really doesn't work as a great introduction to Eastern and Little Nature Deity. Though I will say that while characters are actually given greater detail, the background is still lacking. Backgrounds seem to have not been Nemu Matsukuta's strong suit at this point in time. Chapter 1 serves primarily as the introduction to the fairies and what their respective powers are. Luna Child is able to silence sound, and she is powered up by moonlight. Sunny Milk is able to refract light to make things look invisible and is charged by sunlight. Man, whenever I see the name Sunny Milk, I think of 2 things. I will either think of milk left out in the sun to go bad, or a mix of Milk and Sunny D. You know, surprisingly, not a bad mix.
That's not too bad.
It might look a bit like eggs, but it's got a creamy orange taste. Would drink again. And then there's Star Sapphire, who is able to detect movement and is not affected by the time of day. Alone, their powers aren't the biggest threat, but these 3 operate as a unit with the sole purpose of mischief. They're little bastards and love to pull pranks, with Reimu often being their target of choice. And today's prank involves fucking with both Reimu and Marisa by turning the rain effectively imperceptible, erasing both the sound of it falling and refracting light to make them invisible. Reimu and Marisa are kinda like the fuck when it comes to the whole rain shit and isn't too bothered by it. Their half of the chapter is them just kinda chilling in the shrine, having a laid back conversation. It's actually kinda pleasant. Chapter 2 yet again sees Reimu as the target of yet another of the fairies' pranks. Reimu is going to visit graves, and the fairies decide to fuck with Reimu's perception in a way to where she would end up walking into a river. The real point of this chapter is to serve as an introduction to one of Reimu's abilities, one she apparently doesn't even recognize herself as having. She has what is often referred to as the ability to float. Float not in flying, tons of Touhou bitches do that no problem, but more in being able to float through life. It's as if the world bends itself to make sure Reimu lives an easygoing and carefree lifestyle. In this case, the fish jump out of the water to serve as a pathway, making sure Reimu doesn't become this prank's victim by falling into the river. This chapter doesn't do really any expanding upon this whatsoever for right now. As I said, it's just an introduction, but this will get expanded upon in later print works. The weirdest part is, Reimu doesn't even know she crossed the river. You'd think that stepping on a fucking fish would feel different than stepping on solid ground. Damn, she oblivious as fuck! Both chapters 3 and 4 are pretty similar in that they are both primarily just the three fairies chilling inside of a large tree that they call home. Not every day in their lives are filled with pranks, and some are more relaxed like these. These two chapters are about the fairies talking about some subject which either lets us learn about them as characters, or about Gensokyo, or about some mythology. Chapter 3's focus is on Luna Child's hobby of collecting shit that falls on the moon, and Chapter 4 on some theories about where Torii gates come from. The 5th chapter has some mysterious egg being found, and Reimu's like, "I'ma fucking eat this," before it gets jacked by the fairies. They too don't know what the egg is. No one does. Not even the Tengu, who thought the egg was one of theirs. If Tengu lay eggs, does Aya have a cloaca? Cloacaya? And with that, Eastern and Little Nature Deity finished its serialization. Despite Chapter 5 ending on a to be continued, that's it. The manga got cancelled because Nemu Matsukura got sick and couldn't continue being the artist. While she couldn't continue the manga, she still looks to be an active artist. I can't show a lot of her pixiv because there's a decent amount of porn on here, but over the nearly 2 decades since Eastern and Little Nature Deity, Matsukura has vastly improved on her art. Her newer stuff looks a lot different. The way she colors looks like an evolution of how she did it for Little Nature Deity, but the way she draws characters is a lot different. It looks a lot more in line with contemporary anime. Though Nemu Matsukura did have to step down, Sangetsusei wouldn't be left in the trash, as Makoto Hirasaka would continue it at the helm. He even did some forecoma at the end of the chapters. I don't actually know if these were new additions for the tankobon release, or if they were serialized alongside the manga. Either way, the future Sangetsusei series are for another video. But what is an addition to the tankobon release is a short story called Fairy of the Moon. Written by Zune with cute as hell illustrations provided by Chiha Ayami, this short story focuses on Luna Child. The fairies find a fluorescent lamp and seek out Renosuke's help in figuring out what it is. This short story feels like it was potentially a chapter that was originally planned to be included in the initial serialization, but then reworked into a bonus for the tankobon release. Alternatively, it could have been a wholly original story for the release, but it's hard to know. It does feel like if the prose were converted into panels that it would have been the length of a chapter. Eastern and Little Nature Deity feels hella laid back. A lot of what's going on in it is characters just chilling, trying to enjoy their day. It's the introduction to some characters and concepts that will be important as Touhou continues, but it's a shame that it's just unfinished. Even then, I think I can still recommend giving this a read because of not only how low commitment it is, this shit will take like 10 minutes tops easy, but also because you know there's going to be more afterwards. Rather than finish this and be upset at the lack of a conclusion, you can finish knowing that there's more to not only Sangetsusei, but way more Touhou to read and enjoy.